I've done many crazy things and accomplished many great things in my life. Bear in mind Buddy Valastro from Cake Boss. Here he is. For many years, the Cake Boss kept a secret. Bud Valastro had his first panic attack when he was 27 years old. He hid it while millions of people saw him smile on video. It was 2020, and he was in charge of 14 shops, 7 restaurants, and 75 vending machines. Then his hand was hurt in a strange accident. As they cut through metal to save him, his kids watched him scream. He's worth more than $10 million now. But his kids are already making the kingdom less united. One can make $150,000 without being near flour. 12 million people watched another one. And you'll be shocked by how he really changed. His birthday is March 3, 1977, and he was born in Hoboken, New Jersey. His folks came to the United States from Italy with big dreams, but not much money. The family lived in a small room that was above Carlos' bakery. Fresh bread smelled great, but so did the stress of not having paid the bills. His dad, Bartolo Sr., worked 16-hour shifts and would sleep on flour sacks when he was too tired to walk home. Mary, his mother, stayed up late counting pennies to see if she had enough money for both milk and the power bill. They ate leftover cakes and things that didn't sell in the shop to stay alive. Buddy's 4 older sisters gave him clothes to wear and let him sleep on the couch in the living room. He learned the importance of hard work and gratitude through the hard times in his life. Bud's life changed when he was only 11 years old. It was found that his dad has lung cancer. The family had to get help to run the shop. Bud went to work while the other kids played baseball or video games. Full years though, he cleaned out the kitchen and mopped the floors after school. It hurt his hands to pipe frosting roses for so long. His days began at 6 a.m. and finished late at night. He only made $20 a week, but he learned how to do everything, from taking orders to making cakes. He could make wedding cakes worth $800 by the time he was 13. That cash helped pay the rent and kept the lights on. The things he gave up would help him be successful in the future. But nothing he did could get him ready for 1994. His father had a sudden heart attack and died when he was only 17. It hurt a lot to be sad, but the stress was even worse. The restaurant was having a hard time. There were fewer sales. Debts were getting worse. It didn't take Buddy long to step in. He didn't know anything about business, hadn't been trained, and didn't have time to learn things slowly. He quit high school, which he felt bad about for a long time. He got up at 4 a.m. to bake bread and handle payments while his friends went to college. He had long days, lots of back pain, and worry that would never go away. Was this the right way to go? Had he given up too much? While he was stuck in the kitchen trying to keep the family alive, he saw his friends begin to build their lives. It was too stressful to handle. He wasn't just running a business. He took care of his mother and 4 sisters by himself. He was having panic attacks. He couldn't sleep. He sobbed when no one was around. Sometimes it all seemed like too much for him, but he never gave up. Bud had a string of bad luck from 1998 to 2003 that hurt him mentally and financially. One of the worst times was when he used $800 worth of expensive Belgian chocolate to try to make a fancy Italian wedding cake. The cake fell apart just hours before the wedding. To save the event, the family worked all night and spent an extra $1,200 on food. Buddy once burned 200 cannoli shells when he was trying out a new way. That one mistake cost $400. The failing bakery made money for almost a whole week. These terrible events broke Buddy's spirit and made him more careful and precise. It didn't matter how much it cost. Every mistake taught him something, and every risk helped him get better at what he did. From 1994 to 2005, the bakery was just barely making it through those early years. The monthly income was around $8,000, just enough to pay the rent, electricity, and food. As little as $150 was made some days in the winter. That was all. The lights were only on because of 40 to 50 usual customers, most of whom were old Italian Americans. The bakery was very small. It was only 800 square feet. 6 people could be there at once. Some of the tools were so old they were from the 1960s. The family lost a lot of money when the display cases broke and the cakes went bad. There wasn't enough money to buy new ones. They fixed what they could with tools they had at home instead. Buddy often worked 16-hour shifts 7 days a week for less than the minimum pay. It was a hard, boring life, but they kept the business going. In the end, it was all about family. Buddy didn't do this by himself. Mary, his mother, took care of the money. Even though she didn't have a business degree, she was very good at managing the money and fought over every penny. Each of his 4 sisters had a part to play. Grace was the friendly face that people saw when they came in. Madalena took care of the stock, like a drill master. Mary was busy decorating. Lisa had to deal with providers. Even though they fought all the time about money, routines, and relationships, they were still a family. And somehow, the mix of love and conflict worked. At the time, it seemed like chaos, but now it's the right setting for reality TV. They clashed in real ways, like when they fought, hugged, talked business, or had family problems. It was these real times that made them famous. But before the fame came, things were at their worst. Between 2001 and 2004, almost everything went apart. When big commercial bakeries moved in, they lowered their prices and stayed open later. One opened nearby in 2002, only 3 blocks away. Because they used automated technology and bought in bulk, they were able to sell similar Italian pastries for 30% less. A lot of people stopped going to Carlos Bakery almost overnight. The monthly income dropped to $4,800. It wasn't even enough to pay the bills. Began to think about giving up. It crossed his mind to sell the company. A few people made offers between $45,000 and $60,000. The worry was too much. Buddy stopped eating right, and he lost 25 pounds. He was unable to rest. To make extra money, his mom had to get a job at a nearby food store. His sisters began looking for other jobs. Then things began to change. Family had a tough talk at the end of 2003. Free to try one more year. They would leave for good if things didn't get better. Everything changed because of that choice. They did everything they could to make it work. Things began to get better over time. Valastro took part in the Food Network Challenge in 2004. New chefs from all over the U.S. competed in a tough event. Buddy was there for more than just baking. Everyone was shocked by his one-liners and good looks. He got the $10,000 prize, but something more important took place. He saw that he was good at being on TV. From being a small-time baker in Hoboken to becoming famous across the country, that one win set him on the path. He never thought he would be good for TV, but directors saw something in him. His brand was made up of his sense of humor, confidence, and baking skills. Buddy was back on the Food Network Challenge in 2007, this time not to fight but to help other people. In more ways than one, it was help. He was studying the TV in silence. He watched how the crowd reacted, as well as the camera angles and plots. He was getting better at the things he needed to do for his own show behind the scenes. He was getting ready for something bigger while running Carlos Bakery. He was no longer just baking cakes. One surprise appearance at a time, he was becoming known in the TV world. The hugest surprise of all came next. When people first asked Buddy to be on a TV show about his bakery, he said no more than once. He was afraid that the cameras would make cake making less fun. They didn't give up even though he didn't want his skill to become a joke. In the end, he gave up. Cake Boss first aired on the TLC in April 2009. It was a big hit right away. It wasn't just cakes, it showed his family, their fights, how they worked together, and how chaotic things were. Buddy was no longer just a cook. He was the boss of cakes. Everything changed after that movie. The show became very famous very quickly. The Hoboken Bakery was packed with tourists. People waited in line around the block to get a look. Many people had to go to Carlos Bakery, but with fame came stress. As the business tried to stay open and deal with fans and film non-stop, it became very hard. Buddy was still able to make his shop bigger than he ever thought possible. The fastest thing that shocked him was how quickly everything moved. His small shop became famous across the country in just a few weeks. Between 2009 and 2020, Cake Boss was a hit show that never stopped. Buddy became well known, but it also invaded his privacy. His whole life was made public. His aunts and mother, Mary, became well known on TV. When his mother died in 2017, friends filled the bakery with flowers, cards, and art. People who had never met her were sad as if she were family. That was how personal the show had become, but it made it hard to grieve alone. A lot of fame also caused other problems. People who liked him came to his house. There were real worries about safety. Buddy could no longer enjoy being a baker in a small town. Hoboken was different now. Things had changed in his life. The bakery was no longer a quiet corner store. It was famous all over the world. The first store on Washington Street couldn't handle the crowds by 2010. There were tourists everywhere. The city even changed the name of the corner to Carlos Bakery Way. It was an honor, but it also made traffic worse and made people stressed. That many people were never supposed to be able to eat at the restaurant. Buddy had to have more room. Because of this, he opened a 30,000 square foot building at the Lackawanna Center in Jersey City in November 2010. It was very big. It had ovens, offices, and shipping stations, among other things. It cost lots of money, but now he could send cakes all over the country. The little family bakery had grown into a full-fledged food business. Buddy did more than that. He wished to get bigger. When it was at its peak, Carlos Bakery had about 20 sites in states such as Nevada, New York, Florida, and Texas. He opened Buddy V's Ristorante in Las Vegas in 2013. After that, there was Buddy's Jersey Eats Pizza Cake and the Boss Cafe. He was no longer just a baker. He was building a food business. He also started a food business in 2014. Yes, stuff that sold cake slices. You could find them in Las Vegas, Toronto, and shopping malls all over the US and Canada. There were 30 of them in some towns. People loved how easy it was. That was one more way Buddy stayed ahead. In November of that same year, 2010, he also put out a book. It was called Cake Boss Stories and Recipes for Mia Familia. On this day 100 years ago, the bakery opened its doors for the first time in 1910. It had 37 recipes for things like red velvet cake and cannoli. The book was 272 pages long. It wasn't just about food, though. It was about his family, his mother, father, aunts, and how they all worked together to make a dream come true.